we look at what's happening with COVID across Asia at the present time, we're clearly seeing some very difficult phases of COVID, especially in economies like India, and some more localized outbreaks in places like Taiwan, Japan, and Singapore. In general, what we're finding is that markets and investors are kind of looking through these as relatively short-term impacts and really focusing on some of those attractive structural drivers for the economies and for the companies that are based in those particular parts of the region. So if we look at India in particular, where we're seeing, for example, consumption per capita still on a trend which is much further behind where we see other economies across the region, the acceleration of the digital economy in India, again, very much at the forefront of investors' minds, and upcoming IPOs are a good example of how the corporate sector in India is really evolving at a rapid pace. So in general, we would characterize the environment in front of us as being one of higher growth, but also higher inflation, with all of the volatility that can bring, especially for those parts of the world unused to that level of inflation. I think the story is very different as we turn to Asia, where we have been seeing much and living with much higher levels of inflation over the past decade. So I think that as a region, Asia is much better able to manage inflation than we would expect to see from other parts of the world. On the whole, we are seeing a very positive environment as reflected by our earnings expectations for companies across the region, with certain key sectors in technology, semiconductors, and consumer continue to offer very high level of earnings growth. So in an environment where we're seeing broadening returns, investors should look at some of those emerging parts of Asia, like the ASEAN countries, and also some of what I would describe as the better risk-reward allocations in the region, such as Japan and Australia. And I think that investors will be well served by having much more balanced exposure sectorally as well. So not just across some of those higher growth, longer term technology sectors, but in areas like industrial, consumer, and financials as well.